The NFL coaching carousel is heating up as tomorrow is Black Monday. Certain coaches will be fired, certain will stay, and names will start to circulate. They already are. We're going to break it down here on today's show. My name is Harrison Graham. This is For Verts, where we talk about the NFL and college football every single day. We'll have full coverage of the coaching carousel this year. And if you want to be along for the ride, subscribe to the channel. We're not going anywhere. Free and daily content around the National Football League and college football. Thank you guys so much for 15,000 subscribers. Our next goal is 16K. All right, the two following coaches, according to reports really from all over, are likely to be out. That is Cleveland's Kevin Stefanski and Pete Carroll of the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's start with Stefanski. I would say every reputable insider, Schefter, Rapoport, Jordan Schultz, a few others, Diana Rossini, have said that barring a surprise, Kevin Stefanski is going to be gone. Now, I can't remember which reporter had it, but one of them said there's an unlikely scenario that they could try to trade him because he would generate some interest for other openings, whether it's OC or a head coach. Obviously, you wouldn't trade him to go be an OC somewhere, but maybe some team would throw like a late-round pick at Cleveland if they got intel that they were interested, but that's pretty unlikely. Typically, when a coach trade happens, it's a unique situation, and I don't think this falls into that bucket. I think Stefanski is a good ball coach, but they're like 6-28 or whatever the last couple of years. I just think that they're going to try something new. Now, you could argue, is keeping Andrew Berry the right move? Is a full reset more of a good option? But Barry's likely going to stay, according to reports. All right, Pete Carroll, all but certainly one and done in Las Vegas. The reports have just said the only thing that's in question is he going to retire or is he going to get fired? Now, if he retires, I still think that's the Raiders telling him, hey, we're moving on. You can control the narrative how you want to, because I don't think he wants to retire. I think he took this job wanting to turn this thing around, but let's face it, it's been a complete disaster. It has been an absolute disaster. They brought in Pete Carroll with the idea of stabilizing the franchise. Hey, Pete, come do this 3-4 years. Let's get the train back on the tracks, and then we'll hand it off to someone else. You don't hire a 73-year-old, go 2-15, and then run it back another year. It's unfortunate because the Raiders keep cycling through coaches, but I think this is the right move. Whereas I could see it either way with Stefanski. I think firing Pete is the way to go if you're the Raiders. And I know you might say, well, you can't keep firing coaches. Again, though, he's 74 years old. If it's gotten more chaotic with the 70-plus-year-old, what's the point of keeping him? So he's going to be out. An interesting report has surfaced with the Raiders' potential search from Mike Florio, and that is, and we've heard this part of the report from several sources, Tom Brady's going to be even more involved in the search this year. Well, he's got connections to Brian Daboll and Brian Flores from his Patriots days. There's a idea out there from Florio, I don't know how well reported this is, but some intel here, that Brady could try to pull off a Brian Flores as head coach, Brian Daboll as OC combination. That would be a home run if the Raiders could pull that off. Flores is an excellent defensive coach. He is a high standards guy as well. He will not deal with nonsense. And Daboll is a good offensive coach. If he's the offensive coordinator, I think that's a pretty damn good combo there if you could pull that off. So we'll see if it happens. But listen, I liked the thought of the Pete Carroll thing. Clearly it didn't work. Sometimes you try stuff, it doesn't work. I think this one, if Flores and Daboll went 3-14, it's like maybe you're just cursed. Maybe you just got no shot. But on paper, that's a pretty damn good combination if you could pull that off. Okay, here's a wild card. Phillip Rivers, who obviously had this entertaining comeback story this year for the Colts to try and save their season. It didn't work, but it was a fun story, and he actually played pretty well. Ian Rapoport reports that some teams are doing research on him as a potential head coach candidate. He, of course, has been coaching high school ball, his son in Alabama the last few years. We'll dive into this. There's some interesting thoughts here that I have about this. Could Phil Rivers stay in the NFL, but just as a head coach? But got to pay some bills first. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. Find your community on PrizePicks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with the single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like me at HGramNFL and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Little Sunday night lineup for you guys. I'm going to take less on Aaron Rodgers' passing yards. Without DK Metcalf, that passing attack looked pretty brutal the other night, so I'm going to take less. Derrick Henry looked unstoppable the other night. Don't think he'll rush for 4 touchdowns, but I think he'll find the end zone at least once. Goblin play there. Those are easier to hit. And then Lamar Jackson, clearly he hasn't been as mobile this year. He's not going to be 100%, but I think he'll have a timely scramble or two. So give me more than 12.5 yards on his longest rush tonight. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Download the app today. Use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It is good to be right. Okay, Ian Rapoport had this to say about Phil Rivers as a head coaching candidate. He said, several sources say Rivers could end up as a head coach candidate this cycle, and the current belief is that Rivers will get at least one opportunity to interview, possibly more. Sources say that teams have been doing research on Rivers as a candidate and making background calls. That happened last year as well. Rivers previously has never been willing to engage, not with college or NFL teams, but his dramatic return to the NFL in December might have sparked his interest. Now, my initial reaction is I would love to see this just from an entertainment factor. I have no idea if it would work. He's never even been, a quarterback's coach in the NFL. But I think we just saw that off the street, 5 years removed from playing, he understands the game really well. He's clearly got great leadership attributes. And yeah, it's high school football, but he's been coaching, right? So he's been around it to some degree and spending these last few weeks in an NFL locker room. He knows how those locker rooms run. So I do think there's a world where it could work. It was also mentioned in that report that teams believe that Rivers could build a good staff due to his connections around the league. So I think that's pretty interesting. Now, to the point Rapoport also made that he had not been willing to engage before. Will he now? Yes, being around it again, I'm sure the juices have been flowing. He's enjoyed it. His son's also a senior. I don't know. That's a tough one because you got 10 kids. Your family has sacrificed for you to play. You've been coaching your son. You're going to walk away from that when he's a senior? I'm sure his son and his family would be like, hey, man, if you can be an NFL head coach, go do it. But I could see Philip Rivers being like, I can't do it right now. I'm going to go coach my son's senior year. If you guys are interested next year, great. But at the same time, man, it's like if it's something he wants to do at some point, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And if teams are interested, at least interview, right? And if you turn them down, you turn them down. But I would be fascinated by this. And again, I personally would just love to see it. Do you want Phil Rivers as an NFL head coach? I want to see it. Type Y for yes. Type in for no. I'm not sure what team makes sense. Tennessee, he lives in Alabama, wouldn't have to move that far. He's kind of a southern guy like that. I think that could be interesting. That's very risky when you just drafted Cam Ward to just kind of go the unknown route of a Phil Rivers, but I certainly would be entertained by it. Okay, Jay Glazer, who when he talks, I think it's worth listening because he's not like Schefter where he's getting any and every scoop, but the scoops he gets are usually pretty damn good. He's got 7 coaches into a, quote, time will tell category. Pay attention the next 48 hours, essentially. Here are 5 of those. Jonathan Gannon with Arizona, which other reports have suggested he's probably safe, but they've lost 13 of 14, likely 14 of 15 with a loss to the Rams today. Raheem Morris with Atlanta. Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins. Most reports have suggested he's safe. Todd Bowles, if the Bucs make the playoffs, you would think he's probably safe, but maybe if they lose the 3-way tiebreaker, if Carolina ends up getting in, maybe that would change. And then Matt LaFleur. Remember in the middle of the year, there was a report from The Athletic that LaFleur could be coaching for his job, and then they got hot, and that kind of quieted down. Well, the Packers have lost 3 in a row since then, right? And they're the 7th seed, and if the 7th seed didn't exist, the Packers would be in a 4-year drought for the playoffs. So from that standpoint, you're like, oh, okay. That being said, I think it would be insane if the Packers punted on Matt LaFleur. Number one, this isn't like a great cycle in terms of obvious head coach candidates. Who are you going to get that's better? Like, it'd be one thing if they just fell in love with Ben Johnson from afar last year and they're like, you know what, we like LaFleur, we think this guy could be better. But, like, who is that this cycle? There's no Mike Vrabel, there's no Ben Johnson, there's no Jim Harbaugh. You going to go, like, Chris Shula? You going to promote Jeff Hafley? Like, you're going to bring back Mike McCarthy? Like, I don't think there's these obvious options out there. So I think that would be crazy, but there's been whispers throughout the season, so that's interesting. And then the two other names, and if you read the title of this video, wanted to save this for the end, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. You know, there's been chatter on the outside for years, like eventually the Steelers and Tomlin got to break up, but that's not really how Pittsburgh operates. If they're winning, you know, even if they're not winning Super Bowls, hey, like, they respect Tomlin. He's got them in the mix every year. And, you know, to an extent, I understand it. John Harbaugh, you know, have things slipped a little bit? It's getting weird with him and Lamar Jackson, it would appear. Let's start with Tomlin. Now, Schefter says that the Steelers will not fire Mike Tomlin. But there's some chatter that he could choose to take a year off and go do TV, recalibrate, and maybe come back to coaching in 27 or 28, likely for a different team, because in that case, the Steelers will have a new head coach. So that's interesting. And there was a report that Fox would hire him on the spot if he became available. I think he'd be great on TV for what it's worth. So it doesn't sound like a trade is on the board. Like, he's not going to go coach a different team this year. If he leaves, it'll be on his own accord, and he will go do TV and then reassess his future in terms of potentially coaching again or not. There's conflicting Harbaugh reports. Schefter says his future is up in the air and we should pay closer attention to him than Mike Tomlin. In other words, saying there's at least a world where Baltimore would choose to move on, where Pittsburgh is not choosing to move on from Tomlin. If they move on, it's him moving on. Rapoport says it's unlikely that Harbaugh will be back, Lamar will be back. They could tinker with the staff, but don't expect those two to be gone. I tend to lean toward Rapoport on this one. Like, I don't think a major change would come with John Harbaugh or Lamar Jackson, because they're both two of the best at what they do. And I don't quite feel like the Ravens situation is the same as the Steelers, where the Steelers have gone, 8-9 years without a playoff win. The Ravens have won a playoff game every year for multiple years now. So I don't think it's quite the same. I will say this. I think the loser of tonight's game, and remember, it's winner or go home, Steelers-Ravens, winner gets the 4 seed, wins the AFC North, loser misses the playoffs. I think the loser, there's going to be some chatter. Like, do they move on? Does Tomlin walk away? Does Harbaugh become like a trade candidate? Like, there was another report out there that the Giants would be interested. Like, could they just trade him to the Giants? It's going to be interesting, whoever loses tonight's game, what the potential fallout could be. We'll cover it all here on 4 Verts, so don't miss out. Let us know who you got in this winner-take-all game tonight. Steelers, Ravens, PIT for the Steelers, BAL for the Ravens. All logic would point to Baltimore. No DK Metcalf for Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers did not play well without him. But that's when the Steelers win, right? Isn't that like classic Tomlin? Like, when you least expect it, he pulls one off. So it'll be interesting. You guys let me know. My name is Harrison Graham. We will continue to have all these storylines covered here on 4 Verts. So do not go anywhere. We'll see you guys soon here on the channel.